So I founded a school in Durham, North Carolina that uses Sociocracy, and I'd like to tell you today about how we use the Sociocracy with children and adults. I'm going to go ahead and start a screen share for my presentation. So like I said, we use Sociocracy with children at Durham, North Carolina at Pathfinder Community School. So I often get asked, why did I start Pathfinder? And the truth is that I founded Pathfinder for my own inner child. It's the kind of school that I wish I had gone to. And here I am. I love interacting with the children, and I love creating a space where they can be free and have confidence and use consent as the basis for everything that they do. And I also get to play with them. So here is me with the crown that the kids made for me this year. I'd like to give you the presentation today. I'm going to start out explaining a little bit more about what Pathfinder is. Then I'll do a very brief overview of Sociocracy in schools. We'll look in more detail then. The bulk of the presentation will be how Sociocracy actually works in a school community. I'm going to just go over how it works with the adults, since they're included in sociocratic structure, and then spend the most time on how we use Sociocracy with children. We'll go over some challenges and rewards of using Sociocracy with children, and then I'll end up with a Q&A at the end. So starting out, just what is Pathfinder? So Pathfinder is a self-directed learning community in Durham, North Carolina in the US. We were founded in 2016 using Sociocracy, and we have ages 5 to 14 enrolled. Currently, we have 18 children. We've had up to 25, and we could fit up to 40 in our current space. That's our goal for this year. Pathfinder is at the intersection of self-directed education philosophy with a democratic school structure. So our education philosophy follows unschooling, agile learning centers, and Sudbury schools. And it means that the students get to choose what they learn, how they learn, and who they learn from. We also share a democratic school structure with hundreds of schools all over the world that are called democratic free schools. And democratic free schools mostly use majority rules democracy, but there are a few that use Sociocracy as their governing structure. So I just want to take a brief look at Sociocracy in schools, the history and what it looks like today. So if you didn't already know, Sociocracy actually has its origins in a school. The school was de Werkplaats Kindergemeenschap in the Netherlands. It opened in 1926 and is still operational in the present. And Gerhard Indenburg was a student at the school. After he graduated and grew up and he was working in his family's engineering firm, that's where he codified the principles of Sociocracy, and then began, once he saw that it worked in his family business, he began spreading it all over the world. So I think that when we use Sociocracy in schools, we're actually going back to the roots of Sociocracy. Here's a list. It's probably incomplete, but it's a list I got from Wondering School of democratic schools that use Sociocracy with their students. And you can see that these schools are located all over the world, from the Netherlands, France, the US, Germany, Spain, Sweden, Australia, Thailand, and Switzerland. At Pathfinder, our closest neighbor, or the school that most resembles us, is De Vrije Ruimte in the Netherlands. And especially we've taken inspiration from their circle structure. As you can see, they have a student circle that's broken up into age groups, a teacher circle, a parent circle, and a support circle, with the general circle in the middle is the school circle. I'll show our school circle diagram in much greater detail later. If you want to learn more, I highly recommend the School Circles film by Wondering School. The website is here, and at the end of the presentation, I'm going to share a link to these slides in the chat so you can see all the links there. Now I want to dive deeper into how Sociocracy actually works in the school community at Pathfinder. So with our self-directed education, community is actually our curriculum. The curriculum is how to be in relationship with other people. Having relationships is the foundation of our community. In order to keep those relationships healthy and to use repair in relationships, we have a very strong emphasis on conflict resolution. And then the third really important principle of our community is the sociocratic governance structure, where everyone has a voice and we strive to make sure that everyone's needs are met. So that makes up our curriculum, and I just love that our curriculum really is the community, the process of building community together. Our circle structure is, we have a board, which is the top circle. We have a staff circle who implements the program. We have a parent circle, and then a member circle. So the members would be called students in any other context. Just when you see members, think students. That's the children in the community. So I wanted to start out just going over how Sociocracy works with the adults at Pathfinder. Like I said, the board is our top circle, and the board is in charge of long-term decision making. So that includes our mission, our vision, our aims. They approve the annual budget. They're in charge of the bylaws. They have the final legal responsibility, and they meet quarterly. And the board is currently 5 members. That includes a staff representative and the general circle leader, who is our executive director or the head of the school. And the board also includes members of the wider education community and 1 parent as well. The next circle is the staff circle. And I guess I just want to go back for a second to say the board was the first circle that was operational, and we operated for 2 years with only the board before the other circles came online when we actually opened as a school. The staff circle decides staff policy. So they get to decide sick leave, vacation, and wages. The wages have to be approved by the finance legal circle, and it has to be within our budget, but the staff get to decide that, or they get to advocate for higher wages if they want to. The staff are the ones who actually implement the program. They administer the business, and they lead the support circles. So those two stars are our support stars. They're not formal circles. Each star is led by 1 person. The program support star includes volunteers and staff and parents. Anybody can join it, including children. The administrative support circle or support star is similar. The ones that are in bubbles are actually formal circles. So our finance legal is a formal circle, hiring and admissions all operate fully sociocratically. Then PR, outreach, and site are both just 1 single person who holds that space. If we ever grow into our staff, we might make those into formal circles in the future. The next circle is the parent circle. So the parent circle is there to support parents and also to help parents support Pathfinder. Parents can engage in fundraising. They can organize enrichment activities for the parents. They give feedback on community proposals, which is the most important function of the parent circle, and they meet monthly. We've had from 15 to 25 members depending on enrollment, and so they elect both a leader and a representative to the central community circle. Next, I'd like to dive a lot deeper into how we use sociocracy with children at Pathfinder. So the children are located in the members circle. The member circle has 3 subcircles that we call spawns. So there's a subcircle for ages 5 to 7, a subcircle for ages 8 to 10, and one for ages 11 to 14. Each of those subcircles elect a leader and a representative to the members circle. The spawns meet every day, and the biggest function of spawns is community building. So they answer questions like, what do you want to build? How do you want to build a respectful community? Or what does it look like when you're sad or angry? So we do a lot of emotional development and also community building in the spawns. The spawns also discuss proposals for member circle. And then Member Circle meets once a week and has 6 members. So meetings at Pathfinder, the way it works is we have 4 kinds of meetings that everybody's required to go to. First is the morning meeting, which is where we give daily announcements, and children can announce what they want to do for the day, and they can make invitations for other people to join them, such as meet me for tag at noon on the playground. Adults can also make offerings, such as we're going to do a science experiment at 11 o'clock in the workshop. And it's a time for questions and answers about the day. Immediately after the morning meeting are spawn points. I forgot to mention spawn is lingo from computer games. And computer games, when you first arrive in the game, you go to a point that's called a spawn point. And that's, the children think of it as where they arrive in the school for the school day. Our ChangeUp meeting is a weekly problem-solving meeting where everyone is required to attend the beginning and the end of the meeting to hear how the meeting goes. I'll go into that in more depth later. And then the Member Circle is our weekly formal governance meeting with representatives from each spawn. We found through trial and error some principles of having meetings with children that actually work. It's been very challenging to implement Sociocracy with our youngest members who are as young as age 5. So we start out with having a very small group. We have maximum 10 children, but most of the time the group is about 7 or 8 children. We take rounds with a talking stick or some other talking object so that the children can clearly see whose turn it is to speak. And instead of asking for consent or objections, we ask for thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs sideways. So thumbs up is I approve the proposal, thumbs down is I object to the proposal, and then thumbs sideways is I don't really care either way, but I can consent to the proposal as it is. The proposals have to fit on a sticky note, so they have to be very brief. We stick to one topic at a time. So on any given day, there's only one topic of discussion. And our meetings are maximum 10 minutes, and we always set a timer so that the children know that their time will be respected. So one of our meetings is the ChangeUp meeting, and that's our weekly problem-solving meeting. It's the meeting where we agree on our community guidelines. So we have 4 core principles, and that's to respect, to take care of stuff, take care of people, and to participate. And everyone also agrees to help solve conflicts. Those are our central agreements that the children sign, a formal agreement at the beginning of the school year that they'll follow those agreements. And in addition to those agreements, we have clarifications. So the sticky notes are proposals that have come out to clarify how do those agreements actually work in practice? What does respect look like? What does being appropriate look like? What does it mean to not disrupt others? So each week we have 3 topics, and those topics can be issues, it could be a wish or a desire for something new that they want to have in the community, and anyone can participate in any breakout group. It's limited to 7 minutes of discussion, and then we reconvene in the big group with everyone present. The breakout groups are solely responsible for consenting to a proposal. So if you really care about an issue, you might have to choose between 2 meetings that are both issues that you care about. But on the other hand, everyone who is in the breakout group has their voice heard and has an opportunity to consent to a proposal. One representative comes back and reads the proposal to the group, and proposals are consented to for 1 week at a time. Then we evaluate the proposals the following week, and if it's still working well, we put it on this board as a symbol that it's a proposal that we've consented to. So I'll tell one story about a proposal that went through that process, and it is running without hurting people. So the very first day of school, the children didn't like the rule that the adults had come up with before the kids arrived, which was no running in the hallways, no running inside. And pretty much every school that I've ever been to has a rule of no running inside. But the children said that they really wanted to move their bodies and that they felt restricted by not being able to run or skip or move quickly through the hallways. So the staff said, no, we object because it's not safe. And the children came back saying, well, what if we tried it for just one day? And then we could see if anybody got hurt. So they already were amending the proposal on the very first day of school. So we tried it for one day, running without hurting people. And amazingly, nobody got hurt. The staff were all holding their breath all day and nobody got hurt. But it evolved to where children then started doing chasing games. And the chasing games made it so that people ran faster inside, and they just got too excited. So we amended the proposal to say no chasing games inside through this process. And those rules are still in effect to this day. Here you can see our ChangeUp board. We always start the ChangeUp meeting with what is going well and having gratitude for what's really working. And then you can see that we start with an awareness, wish, or a problem. We anchor that to one of our values, like taking care of people, and then try a proposed solution and check in the next week. If it's not working, we'll try a different solution. So it's a very agile and flexible process that still follows the principles of sociocracy. It's important that if agreements are broken, we have a process to resolve conflicts. And the way we do that is through mediation circles using restorative practices. We always speak in rounds, and we use nonviolent communication to try to figure out what the issue is, how people feel about it, and what they want to happen differently next time, so they can make agreements together about how to repair a relationship, or if they've harmed a piece of school property, they make an agreement of how to repair that piece of school property or make it better. And we found that it's a really essential part of safe and effective governance to talk about what happens when agreements are broken. Now, the member circle is our formal process for how to use shared spaces, how to decide our program supply budget, and proposals for community-wide rules and agreements. The member circle process goes like this. First, an issue is raised, and it might be an issue that ChangeUp can't resolve. It also might be a fun idea like how to use, what field trip to go on, or how to use our program supplies. Discussion happens in spawn groups. So the spawn group would just have one question, such as, how do you want to spend our money this month?
Can't hear anymore. Oh.
So here's some examples of what they've decided to spend money on. We give them $200 a month, and they can spend it on whatever the group consents to. So they've spent it on field trip fees. You can see on this, they've spent it on computer games. They spent it on foam swords for a room we call the rumpus room, where they can play and be rambunctious. They also bought cushions for the rumpus room. It's a room that the children took from a completely blank space with a few gym mats to now it's like a gymnastic paradise in there. It's full of pillows for pillow forts. They also are in charge of all of the art supplies, science supplies, office supplies, and music supplies. The children do solicit a lot of donations. They also go through like a ton of Scotch tape. So if they run out of office supplies, they're responsible for paying for it. Then pictured on the left, you can see that there was a need in the community. Some of the children said they were hungry in the middle of the day, so the community decided to purchase snacks for the other children. And they would distribute the snacks fairly and equally. Everybody had to line up, and the snack committee was a committee that was formed to decide which snacks to buy, how much to buy, and how to distribute them to the community. And it was approved by a member circle, the expenditure. Some other kinds of decisions that were made includes our profanity policy. So we had teenagers who needed to find a space to speak freely to each other, and they felt like it wasn't fair that they couldn't use curse words. And on the other hand, there were little kids who felt like it wasn't fair that they couldn't use curse words. And at the same time, there are many people who are offended by curse words and didn't want to have to hear that without consenting to it. So the rule that Member Circle came up with after getting feedback from everyone was to not use curse words in public spaces and to only use curse words in a room with a closed door if everyone in the room consents to using curse words. And the children are so polite about it. And even with me, they'll ask, is it okay to use curse words? And sometimes I say no. Sometimes I just don't want to hear that. Sometimes with the older children, I feel like it gives a sense of closeness or intimacy to be able to use curse words. They've also had in-depth discussions about hate speech and what is acceptable or unacceptable about our community. And we've had, since we adopted the proposal, we've at first had weekly check-ins to ask, are people able to find a space to speak freely? And do they say each other to stop when they don't like words people are using? And asking if people are feeling safe about the general atmosphere in public spaces. And it's been working really well. I guess one example I'll say is that sometimes people have been asked to go to a conflict resolution circle, and that's a place where they hammer out, I didn't like it when you said that word over and over again. Even though it wasn't a curse word, I found it offensive. So there's an opportunity even inside the rules to make it a finer grained view of how to resolve these problems. Another example is we had a day with no cleaning. So every day the children are required to clean, and that was a rule that was decided upon by the adults when the children weren't present at the very beginning of the school year. So one child said, I hate cleanup time, we should get rid of it. I don't care if the building is clean or not. And the community consented to one day without cleaning and then to evaluate how it went without cleaning. So at the end of the day, there were personal belongings left out. There was trash on the floor. There were like gross smears of things on the cafeteria table. And when people came in the morning, I asked everyone just to look around and to evaluate how they felt about the space without it having been cleaned. It was also a day where we had visitors. So at morning meeting, we asked the children and they said, I don't like it, it's gross. I think there's gonna be bugs here. I don't wanna eat on the table, it's disgusting. And we asked the visitors what they thought, and they said, well, we didn't know if you guys clean regularly, and we thought it was a little untidy. The children were embarrassed that the visitors saw it. And because of the reaction of the community, the one child was able to have his objection solved, or he was willing to let go of his wish to let go of cleaning time because we actually tried it out and saw how it went. He was able to go with the wishes of the rest of the community. Now, last but not least, I want to touch on how things work with our central circle, community circle, which is where everything comes together. The central circle decides policies that affect all of the community, including the staff and parents, or require adult input for legal reasons. So example, if we ever wanted to change the program hours, this is the community circle is where we would do that. We've done changing our visitor policies, changing membership policies, and I'll show you our internet policies. I'll go into greater detail. So an issue was raised where some children were found to have been viewing inappropriate material on the internet, some very young children, and their parents were upset. So we started out by asking the entire community, what would make you feel safe about internet use at Pathfinder? And we call it an internet certification. So a certification process at our school is a way to keep kids safe when they're using tools that need some kind of specific safety training. And the community decided that internet is a tool that requires safety training. So after asking for feedback, we came up with all kinds of ideas like no talking to strangers, avoiding pop-up ads and viruses. And parents wanted their children to know what to do if they found inappropriate material, such as pornography, and how to deal with violent imagery or things that are uncomfortable on the internet that they might accidentally stumble on. So it was such a rich topic, it turned into a 3-page proposal. And it was decided that each topic on this list would be reviewed at a half-hour training once a month for children to be able to access our Wi-Fi. We would change the password every month. And the most amazing part of it was at the community circle, there were 2 children ages 8 and 9 who read the entire 3-page proposal and had very salient points to raise about how it should be implemented. And one of their parents told me that now whenever they go to a gym or something that has a liability waiver, the child, as a matter of course, reads the entire waiver because she says, I'm not going to sign anything that I haven't read. And I just love that level of engagement from the children. So I want to end off the talk just by touching briefly on some challenges and also the greatest rewards of using Sociocracy at our school. So some of the challenges actually have to do with implementing Sociocracy with the parents. We found that we had inadequate training for the parents to be onboarded. The first year, the parent circle was just for feedback and they didn't actually get to participate in the democratic process. And we got feedback from the parents that they felt left out. So the second year, we included them sociocratically. We held Sociocracy trainings, but only a few parents attended. And we found that many of the parents were confused by the consent process and they felt actually disempowered because they didn't understand how the process worked. So we're hoping to have more inclusive training this year to get onboarding from the parents. There was also some competitive culture that came up. We found that it really helps to have the children there all day to be imbuing them with a sense of collaborative culture and how to resolve objections. The parents didn't grow up in a culture like that, and that made it more difficult. And last but not least, we realized that we needed a clear conflict process for the parents to resolve conflicts in the community, and that it needed to be something that everyone consented to. So we're in the process of a community-wide mediation with an outside mediator to try to resolve those problems. Some difficulties with the children include the attention spans. Like I've said, of the youngest children, often they can't keep up with a longer, more complicated meeting or a more in-depth topic, but we have short meetings for that reason, and we try to keep it to one topic at a time. Then lastly, that we do have some lack of participation when children don't particularly care about a topic. And there have been times when the staff in a breakout group at ChangeUp Meeting, the staff has been the only person in a circle, but the children have a chance to come back the next week and evaluate and say, we didn't like that decision that the staff made by themselves. And I find that sometimes it's a sign that the children have trust that the staff will be reasonable and come up with proposals that they can consent to. Amongst the rewards that we see, children facilitate meetings and they have such great confidence. They know how to speak in public and make eye contact. They're not afraid of talking to adults, and they're not afraid of standing up for what they believe in and speaking eloquently about very complicated topics because they're taken really seriously. They know that their needs will be taken seriously and their voices will be heard. And that's just, it touches me to my very heart when I see that. I also see the culture of consent spreading around with children. Children asking, can I play with you? Or is it okay if I touch you? Is it okay? Do you want to play tag together? And there's this culture, is it okay if I curse in front of you? This deep, deep culture of consent that goes down to the very foundation of the process. And then I've also seen the collaborative culture spread where when the children are playing games amongst themselves, they're electing mayors of their town with forts in it, and they're making up rules like you can't come into my fort without asking, and no destroying other people's forts. And then they've even assigned kid mediators when problems come up. So they're learning the processes and solving the problems amongst themselves without ever actually having to come talk to the adults, because it's just such a natural part of the program. So that concludes my remarks. Here's my website and my email if you'd like to get in touch with me. And I'm going to go ahead and end my screen share. I'll share these slides in the chat and we can move on to a Q&A.